evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our City Commission meeting on January 12th tonight. A couple minutes after 7, I'd like you to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then a moment, 10 seconds of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for 10 seconds for those that lost their lives in the Capitol, and also prayers to our previous commissioner, James Palomaro. Thank you. You may be seated. Dean, would you please call the roll? And before you call the roll, I just would like to let everyone know that this meeting is also being held on Zoom tonight. Thank you.
Commissioner Flag,
Here.
Commissioner McCall,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hanna,
Here.
Commissioner Hoofnagel.
Yes, I'm here.
I'd like the record to reflect that Commissioner Hoofnagel is attending by Zoom. Mayor Kennedy.
Here. Hi, Ed. Glad you could make it.
Sorry, I have a cold. I didn't want to take the risk.
It's okay. It's all good. With that, we will go to agenda item number 1, which is presentations. Tonight, our presentations from the Pinellas County Sheriffs and also from the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue are on file, and you can see them on our website. With that, we'll go to public comments. 3 minutes time limit per speaker. Any member of the audience may come forward, give his or her name and address, and state any comment or concern that he or she may have regarding any matter which is not on the City Commission meeting tonight. All statements made to the City Commission shall be made to the City Commission as a whole, not directed to any individual City Commission member. No speaker shall be interrupted and no debate shall take place between the speaker and the Commission. With that, is there anyone in the audience? I'll do first, and then once we're done with the audience, we'll go to Zoom. Hi.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Honorable City Councilors. I've got
What is your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my name is Alan Hockley. I reside at 531 Harbor Drive North in IRB.
You may go ahead.
Okay. The concern I have is 2 ordinance, section 110-292 and 110-284. Over the last year and a half, because I had a very bad neighbor who spends maybe 2 hours twice a week at the location next to me and has complained about my trees. So far, I have requested a variance, which was turned down. I went to court. The judge stayed my charges, and yet it still seems to persist. I've done a bit of research in the neighborhood, and if anybody would like to see, I've got a bit of a presentation here. I went around by car, maybe did 25% of my neighborhood. On Harbor Drive North, I've got several houses. Harbor Drive South, I've got 4. Harbor Drive, I've got 2. Bay Boulevard, I've got 4. Bay Shore, I've got 2. 20th Avenue, I've got 7 or 8. Just from what I saw from the street, that have the same type of trees that I do. And that's maybe 25% of the area. I also went by boat, and I've got 144 pictures of only about 75% of IRB by water. And I'd love to show the council and the mayor, if you'd like to see, the 144 pictures I have of properties that have similar trees or maybe even greater than what I have. I guess I'm respectfully requesting that those 2 ordinances be looked at and modified or even deleted. Would anybody?
Alan, give us the name again of those ordinances, just so that...
Oh, okay. It's ordinance section 110, 292 in section 110-284.
Okay.
And I've got a copy of the city violation here, if anybody would care to see that as well.
If you, anything you leave with us, we can't give you back, just so you
Well,
know.
I'm going to keep my iPad if that's okay.
Okay. If there's anything there that you would like, and we will make sure that the city manager gets this and that we have a discussion with him
Okay.
concerning these two ordinances.
Would anybody like to see the pictures? 144, which is only about 75% of from the
I think
water.
that, well, you did show us pictures of some
Oh,
places.
no,
before.
these are of all different houses in IRB, 144 of them that are similar to mine or greater than.
And they're on your iPad, or do you have them on
It's
paper?
on my iPad.
Okay, why don't you send those copies, a copy of those to the city so that we can look them over?
Okay.
Would that be?
Who would I send that to in the
You
city?
would send those to the clerk? Okay, why don't you give him your,
Let me go get a card.
okay. Deanna will get a card and she
Yeah.
will give it to you while you're sitting in the
The
audience.
concern I have is one person can make a person's life miserable. And somebody, and I'm sure there's probably people that either live in this house here, on this list, or have neighbors that are in violation of this code.
Okay.
Okay,
Deanna will bring you out a card, your 3 minutes up. I apologize to you.
yeah, no, that's fine. But thank you very much for hearing me.
No, I'm glad you came in today, so that we'll look at those pictures and we'll also have Greg review those two ordinances and
Do you want me to send any lists of addresses? I don't want to start a big battle in
you
the
do
city.
whatever you would like to do.
I want to do what's going to be fair to other people within the city, and I don't want to start a battle.
Okay?
So if you're telling me to send it,
No,
I
I'm
will.
telling you that Deanna's giving you and you do what you think
Okay.
is best,
Great, thank you.
okay?
Yeah,
Thank you very much for coming.
thank you for hearing me.
No
Appreciate it.
problem, not at all, no problem. Good to see you.
And I want to thank these guys for their service. Thank you. You guys are great, and we appreciate everything you guys do. Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, how are you guys? Good evening.
Love your hair.
Oh, thank you. This morning, I appeared at the county commission meeting, Nancy Obarski, 708 Beach Trail. Sorry about that. This morning, I appeared at the county commission meeting to offer some public comment on the subject I spoke to you all about the last meeting, which is the beach easements that the Army Corps of Engineers is using to hold our 2024 renourishment sand hostage. First, a point of clarification on some comments that were made here in this meeting last month about Clearwater Beach and Bel Air Beach having all their easements signed. Sounds pretty impressive, doesn't it? That's just until you discover there's 10 easements in Clearwater Beach and 11 in Bel Air Beach. And that's in comparison to the 180 needed in Indian Rocks in order to get renourished. At one point, we were told that it was going to be by community, that if 100% of that community had signatures, they were going to get sand. And then at a meeting I was at where John Bishop from the county said that, the Army Corps of Engineers representative contradicted him and said, no, that doesn't mean necessarily that Clearwater Beach and Bel Air Beach are going to get sand. So I happened to see an agenda packet for the Big C meeting, the last one in December, and they had to actually reissue the packet because of a letter that John Bishop wrote to the Army Corps where he had sent in the incorrect letter and he had to correct it. And when I went through the letters to see what the difference was, he is pleading with the Army Corps of Engineers to get sand for Clearwater Beach, Bel Air Beach, North Redington Beach, and Redington Beach. And basically, in the first letter, he names these communities individually, Clearwater Beach, Bel Air Beach. In the second letter, he combines them into segments. He calls it Clearwater Beach, Bel Air Beach, segment. North Redington Beach, segment. The point is, we don't even know what the deal is anymore. My understanding was we needed the whole 461 easements, we needed 100%
or no one was getting sand. Now evidently the goalposts have moved again, although I'm not sure they have, because why would he have had to do that with combining these segments to make it look like it was a bigger area? The reason I point this out is, I mean, we need to be careful that they're gonna lobby to get Clearwater Beach, which is basically the high rises in Sand Key, some sand, while Indian Rocks Beach gets stiff. That's what I see happening here. You know, when you see things like this, it's no wonder that 60% of our residents just aren't having any of this. I mean, you know, we're really mistrustful of the process, and it's entirely understandable. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up? Hi, Don.
So how's my hair?
Yeah.
No, everybody laugh, okay? So anyway, definitely won't have a hairdresser now. So, I'd like to talk about sand too, because, you know, a while back, I told, Cookie and I had a nice conversation, and I thought we were making.
What is your name and your address?
2104 Beach Trail.
Don House.
Hey, we're 3 for 3, all of us can remember our names. So anyway, and I thought we were making some progress, like, because one of the things that was said was that there are some errors in that thing that was sent out by those couple of attorneys. Well, you know, I'm not always a jerk. You know, if there's reason to understand what's going on, I'm asking for it. And last time, this is like 2 meetings that I've asked for stuff, and each time, here's what I actually got back.
Crickets.
We're property owners. I don't care what everybody else is doing, that you gotta go through us. And if you're gonna try and ram it over us, it's not gonna happen. Talk to us, we're smart. We'll figure it out.
Thank you, Don. Anyone else who'd like to come up at this time during public comment? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, the public comments, and we will go to reports of the city attorney, Randy.
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
I'll do when I do my report what I was going to ask you. Our city manager, Greg Mims, is out tonight, and we'll go to the city commission. Commissioner McCall, do you have a report for tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to basically just highlight, we spoke about the toy drive here in Indian Rocks Beach, sponsored by a lot of our local businesses, Century 21 and so forth. Just kind of wanted to give an update on that. In the face of pandemic and everything else going on this year, we actually collected 213 bikes and just an absolute ton of toys. I got the privilege to deliver the majority of the bikes to Shepherd's Village and Grace House here locally. A lot of the toys went to Miracle on the Bay, which houses disabled children and families. Up to 300 people are housed there. So everybody got a toy and bikes, and we actually had bikes left over. A couple of our local restaurants, given some of their staff have been struggling this year, they came in, Kathy met with them, and they were able to deliver a good holiday for their kids. And we had enough basically left over to we donated the rest of it to the food pantry. So all in all, it was a fantastic event. Century 21, a lot of the businesses here in town, Plumley Realty, really put it together, and we appreciate everybody that came out and donated.
You know, Joe, and he is such a great organizer in helping with a lot of these different, for the food drive, and also that one event, that they have for Christmas to bring the bikes, and he's super hands-on. I mean, I really thank he and his wife and the homeowners and, Action 2000, all of them, even the rest of the commission up here are always trying to help, but I just singling Joe out, I really appreciate all that you've done. Did you also do, did the Church of the Isles have the event for the, what's that shelter? I did it with you one year.
Oh,
I didn't,
Fidel's Hope.
Pinellas Hope, did you guys do that too, or they didn't do it this year?
Yeah, they didn't do it with COVID and so forth, they
With
didn't.
co- 'cause
Yeah, yeah, we had to kind of pull back on that, but,
Hopefully we'll
yeah,
get to do it next year again.
yeah, had a very successful turkey drive for the food pantry and then, and then followed up with toy drive. So we had to make modifications due to COVID. But a lot of the businesses got involved, I think 5 or 6 became drop-off points, so, yeah, we were concerned,
With the,
everybody was generous.
just for anybody who's out on Zoom or here tonight, just always to remind you about the food pantry, because we've had lines around the building, and it's heartbreaking, to be totally honest with you. I was just in the back, that's why I was running a little bit late. I was talking about some of the homeless that are around the beaches right now because of the cold, and trying to figure out if there's something we can do. So with that, Vice Mayor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I'd like to report on is my wife and I were fortunate enough to make it through the call bank and get our first COVID shot. And I wanted to pay
Wow.
a little bit of praise, if I could, to the Pinellas County, Mid-County Health Department. Once we got to the site, it was an absolutely wonderful experience in terms of how effective it was. They signed the cards, they didn't rush us. We got in, we got our injections, we went over for our 15-minute wait. We were out the door with our card, ready to come back on the 28th for our second, and it couldn't have run more smoothly. So I want to give high praises out to them, and keep dialing. That's all I can tell you. We lucked out. A good friend of mine is a physician, and his wife tried one day for 6 hours, another day for 4, and still never got through. So we were very blessed. So that's all. They did a good job. The shot didn't hurt, and there's no after effects. So,
Very good. Bill, anything else?
no.
Commissioner Hufnagel, do you have a report tonight? Are you asleep? Where are you?
I'm not, my unmute space bar did not work, I do not have it.
Just teasing you. Commissioner Flagg?
Yeah, on behalf of Action 2000, I just would like to say in December, they had a virtual competition, and they were able to raise some funds. Without Oktoberfest, it's been difficult
Right.
getting funds to keep up with some of the programs that we're doing, the beautification programs that are in place right now. So fortunately, I wanted to thank anyone that was involved in that virtual competition. We did raise enough funds to be able to keep up with all those programs this year and keep the beautification projects going. And what an honor to be part of this city between the homeowners and all the things they did in December and Action 2000. We are so very blessed to
We
have
really are.
people here that really care about the community. So thank you.
Well, I know how good you are too with the pantry, and I appreciate you. And just want to bring up 2 things. We got an email that Senator Manny Diaz, who is from Hialeah, has submitted a bill concerning the short-term rentals. So one of the things that I wanted to ask the commission, if you would be okay if we asked Randy Moore to send a letter to him concerning the short-term rentals, and they would like to, again, try to take it out of local hands. And I'd like to have him draft a letter, and I'd also like to have it go to the rest of the delegation from our county, if that would be appropriate. Would all of you be okay with that?
Yes.
Definitely.
Ed, are you okay with that?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. It's kind of funny because Senator Diaz was the one that I had the meeting with who stopped the whole thing. So I'm just, so anyway, we'll start again. We'll do the best that we can on that issue. I wrote a piece about reflections from last year. I believe it's going to be in the Bee this week. And just my personal thoughts about the year and as we move forward. And I wish all of you safety and health, and for all of us to work together and come together. We have a beautiful city and a beautiful county and an awesome state, and I know I've grown up here my whole life, and whatever we can do together, I know that we're stronger, and I know I'm blessed to be here, raise my son here, and I love all of you, and regardless of our differences, and our commission is just a great group, and I appreciate everyone. So with that, I'd like to move ahead, and we will go to additions and deletions. Are there any for tonight? Doesn't sound like it, so we will move on to consent agenda 5, A, B, C, D, and E. Randy, would you take over?
Sure. Consent agenda, there's items A through E. Item A, approval of the November 10, 2020 regular city commission meeting minutes. Item B, approval of the December 8, 2020 regular city commission meeting minutes. Item C, resolution number 2021-01, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, canceling the March 9, 2021 municipal general election as authorized by Resolution 2020-10, providing for Commissioner-elect Philip J. Hanna and Commissioner-elect Denise Hausberg will be seated for 2-year terms and providing for an effective date for the commencement of their respective elected terms. Item D, resolution number 2021-02, adopting the Program for Public Information, PPI, for the Community Rating System. And item E, proclamation 2021 National Mentoring Month. These are all the items on the consent agenda, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for reading. Is there a motion on this agenda item?
I'll motion to accept the consent agenda A through E.
Thank you, and is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Second. Is there any comments from either the maker or the second?
No.
Joe?
Not at this time. Thank you.
With that, Deanne, would you call the roll?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. Okay, we're on to 6A, public hearing, ordinance number 2020-01, public hearing, second and final reading. Randy, are you going to read this?
I'm going
Because I'm
to
gonna
read
have
it. It is
Eddie.
an ordinance, so I will read the ordinance title.
Okay.
City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, ordinance number 2020-01. An ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, amending the City of Indian Rocks Beach comprehensive plan pursuant to the evaluation and appraisal process of section 163.3191 Florida statutes and the amendment process of section 163.3184 Florida statutes by amending the future land use, transportation, and coastal management and conservation elements to reflect changes in Florida statutes, chapter 163 since 2013, updating the future land use element to maintain consistency with the countywide plan for Pinellas County, as hereinafter provided, establishing the legal status of the comprehensive plan, providing for repeal of ordinances or part of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This has been a reading of ordinance 2020-01 on second reading by title only, Mayor.
Thank you. And with that, Hetty is, and if you don't know Hetty, she is the head of our planning. She's our consultant. Hetty, would you like to
Yes,
take this forward?
right, we had a hearing this summer with the Planning Commission and then the City Commission on August 11th, and, you know, for the first review of the year updates. I know I was over the phone, and I think you were here, so hopefully everything got transmitted okay. And then, with your recommendations, and we submitted it to the state, and they came back with just one comment, which is that it has to be, missed a section F, which is talking about be consistent or more constringent than the flood-resistant construction requirements of the Florida Building Code. That was their objection. So what I proposed is that we add policy 2.58, which states exactly that the city shall be consistent with or more stringent than the flood-resistant construction requirements of the Florida Building Code and applicable floodplain management regulations set forth in 44 CFR Part 40. The other comment they had was from DOT, just saying to update the annual level of service report, which I did to the most recent one that just came out about a month ago. And so I updated the tables for the level of service and then updated the level of service maps. So does anybody have any questions from here? It gets sent back to the state. They have to review it again, and then after they send their letter saying they accept it, which they should, then after 30 days after that, then it would be implemented into our comprehensive plan. All the changes that were part of the original packet.
Does anyone on the commission have a question? We'll start with Ed. Ed, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Hetty.
Okay.
And do any of the other commissioners have any questions for Hetty?
No.
No.
Okay, with that, I'm going to go out to public comment, here and see if we'll be open for public comment and see if there's anyone who would like to make a comment at this time. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to make a comment at this time on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Hetty, is there anything else you want to add?
Nope, that's it, so.
Okay, is there a motion from the commission?
I'll motion to accept ordinance number 2020-01, final and second reading.
I'll second it.
Motion from Diane, and a second from Phil. Is there any comments from the maker?
No.
Vice Mayor, do you have any comments?
No.
Joe, anything? You okay? Would you like to make one?
I'm feeling pretty good today.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll call the roll. Smart guy.
Commissioner Hufnagel,
Yes.
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hannah,
Yes.
Commissioner Flag,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. With that, we'll go on to 6B, ordinance number 2020-08, public hearing, second and final reading. Randy, would you please read the agenda item?
Happily, Madam Mayor, one moment. Ordinance number 2020-08, an ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 62, Traffic and Vehicles. Article 2, stopping, standing, and parking, increasing the fee for parking violations, restricting the hours of parking on the city's beach accesses, amending the requirements for securing a resident parking permit decal, specifying permissible uses of a resident decal, repealing the provision for temporary guest parking permits, amending the fee for replacing a city-issued parking permit, providing for severability and an effective date. This has been a second and final reading of ordinance number 2020-08 by title only. The city manager sends his regrets that he's unable to attend. Ordinarily, he would take lead on this agenda item. I will. This is second reading, so there's no surprises here as to what's being proposed. I would be remiss if I did not echo the sentiments that Greg has emphasized throughout the discussion of parking in any portion of the town, this ordinance or another, which is the city's staff and charter officials are prepared to facilitate whatever it is that is this body's will. This proposal obviously sets forth the restrictions discussed last time concerning the elimination of those temporary passes for overnight parking, or restricting and better defining them, I should say, and the increase in the parking fee. And so with that, I would turn it back to you. I'm happy to answer any direct questions you may have, though because this has been addressed before, I'm not going to wax poetic on the contents of the ordinance.
Ed, we'll start with you, Commissioner. Do you have any comments for Randy tonight?
I don't have any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any commissioner who'd like to make a comment or ask a question to Randy? Joe?
Just briefly, Randy, and I don't know if we addressed this last time. Do we know how many residents are actually here? Do we have a number?
I think there's three. No, I'm just.
Sorry.
I was joking. I said I think there's 3 or 4.
I know. You mean
No.
how many residents we have?
Yeah.
We have 4,340.
I defer to the mayor on the issue.
I just looked the other day.
But those are households, correct? Those are not,
Those population
Those are-
projections, that-
Those are registered voters.
those are,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so we're still looking at issuing up to 4,000 permits? Is that what I'm hearing?
Dan?
That's the total population of the city, as reported in the comp plan, the annual financial statements. I just want to clarify, that's not, I don't believe it's the mayor's state of registered voters.
That's not residents.
That's every head being counted in the last census.
That's correct, you're right, I'm sorry.
And to that point, and as much as it relates to the number of parking permits, the manager asked that I again communicate that the restrictions set forth are as discussed at the previous meeting. However, if it is the commission's desire to alter that, we're prepared to do that, just with the note of the, administrative concerns, and enforcement concerns, and just practical rollout elements, that the manager highlighted in his previous statements on the matter.
Just really a comment for me, and I'm just concerned, we've seen a few ordinances here that are kind of dividing our community up into certain sections. Be it residents, second homeowner, beachgoer, tourist, snowbird. I'm just wondering if this is, such an issue for the parking permit. We've obviously got some feedback from our second homeowners that are just coming down, that feel that they have some level of a right to be able to enjoy our beach, as they've lived here for many years. We talk about, the people in our community, the people who volunteer for our community. A lot of those folks are second homeowners. I understand there's some issues with, possible enforcement. But that's just my personal opinion as far as designating a particular section of folks to be able to enjoy that benefit, I guess, of our city. That's it.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Hannah?
No
Do you have any
comment.
comments? Diane?
No, I just had a question for Dan. As far as homesteaded properties, do you know that number's about 2,000?
I don't know that number specifically off the top of my head, but we're just shy of, I believe, about 3,000 taxable properties, and roughly 44% of those are homesteaded. So, but, again, without those numbers right in front of me, I'm hesitant to give you a specific number, but it's in that general area of 40% of probably, 1,500-ish, but again, I don't want to put any official number. I wasn't prepared to answer those kind of official numbers, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Randy, do you have any comments before we go out to public comment? Okay, I'm going to open the public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to come forward at this time? Please come forward. Hi. State your name and your address, please.
Paul Phillips, 2408 Beach Trail. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. I have some personal concerns I'd like to address, and sort of some general or generic concerns for other people that live in similar situations to me along Beach Trail. I live, if you know the Beach Trail at all, I live in a street that was vacated, part of Beach Trail. I'm the second house in for 2 homes. So I'm at the end of a small driveway, and I have no garage. I have really no driveway, just this vacated Beach Trail. And I can put 2 cars in, usually for me and my wife. If we have someone stay over, I've always, for 35 years of being an owner, I've been able to park on the beach access. This current ordinance would prevent me from doing that without getting some sort of a pass. Now, it sounds good, and I don't mind paying the money. I just want to know how the administration of getting this pass is going to be. Because if I have somebody who comes over and decides they're going to spend the night at the last minute, how am I going to get a pass? How am I going to date it and time it, which the ordinance suggests? I think that's going to be very hard to do. Can anybody, I don't know if anybody can answer that or not.
Once we get all the public
Okay.
comment, then we'll, thank you.
And can I continue?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I think, I understand the idea of not using parking spaces for permanent parking or keeping a car for a long time. And I would suggest that, and I apologize, I wasn't at the first reading, I know this is the second reading, but I would suggest that rethinking this process. I think it's important, since if you count the number of spaces there's 23% of them are for the permitted Indian Rocks Beach people with the cows to park. And most of them, over 63%, go for general parking for people. Now, I can understand not having people park overnight in the decal spots. That prevents people from coming the next morning using the beach. But, so I can understand not allowing people to park overnight in those spots. But in the general parking spots that anybody from any part of this community, or more likely from other communities, or even other places outside of Pinellas County coming, I can't imagine how onerous it is to be able to park overnight and not allow someone to come first thing in the morning. I understand this can be abused, but I've lived at Beach Trail for over 35 years, and I've never personally abused it, and I don't think it's frequently abused. So I think it's really putting an undue burden on people like me that live in a very restricted parking situation not to be able to park overnight in the beach access. And I can't see the benefit of this. And again, and if I could, and it's not the monetary consideration, it's a consideration of how I'm going to get a parking pass at the last minute if I need to move a car. I don't think this has been really well thought out, personally. I saw nothing in the ordinance that would spell out how I could do this, how this could be done. All I saw was timed and dated. I think this puts a huge undue burden on a property owner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Donna?
Don House, 2104 Beach Trail. A couple things about this. It's kind of weird. Before they were beach accesses, they still existed. I mean, they were beach accesses. They didn't have the parking like it was all that. And a lot of people, I know at 21st when they made the beach, they lost parking spaces. In fact, the little motel there on the corner, the city used to give them 4 passes to park at all times because they took their parking when they did that. And the place next door, they lost their access. Parking space was put in front, took away their access to the property. So, you know, a lot of these things is like, well, they're just people on the west side, they don't care. But we do care, and because we've been there a long time, and like previous speaker, like we never abused it. If there's abuse going on, punish the abusers. Don't punish all of us. I mean, you know, I don't even stick on any of my cars because I just don't park in those areas. But I probably should every now and then. But there's always been space next door. But you know, so if there are people that are abusing it, at the last meeting, the city managers mentioned 3 things. 3 things, and you're going to mess up this whole thing. And here's another little thing. I don't know if they said anything about it, but they were stopping the parking at a time when some of these restaurants are still using the beach access as part of their parking. And if you're going to say you can't park in those areas at that time, the restaurants are going to lose some of the parking that they use in beach access. I know I park in the beach access to go to Big E's and stuff, you know, and so I know people do it. So so you're going to eliminate some of the parking for the restaurants, and it's like, you know, I can't. If you really want to enforce parking, come down 21st, 22nd. Every time there's a wedding, there's illegally parked cars, illegally parked trucks. You can yell at them, but don't yell at us. Okay, because we're not doing anything wrong, and I think this is overextending what you're trying to do. Get rid of, you know, find the abusers, do something about that. But the rest of us, we usually play pretty fair.
Thank you, Don.
Nancy Obarski, 708 Beach Trail. Those of you who have seen my driveway know I'm parking challenged. The majority, let's face it, of Indian Rocks Beach properties, because of the premium cost of our land, we all have parking issues. And that goes for the east side of Gulf Boulevard, the west side. But I can also say that on the golf side, we face bigger hurdles. By prohibiting overnight beach access parking, please realize that you will effectively be giving beachfront owners less parking rights than those on the east side of Gulf Boulevard. If those who live on La Hacienda or 20th or Harbor Drive have vehicular overflow, they have the option of parking on their streets. Beachfront owners will not have that luxury if you prohibit overnight beach access parking, because our streets are the beach accesses. Keep in mind too that most of the accesses were and still are dedicated public streets. They were offered and accepted as streets by the original platter of the area, and some of them were turned into beach accesses later. A few months ago, when you threatened to restrict parking on the east side of Gulf Boulevard, residents raised their voices loudly, and you wisely listened and correctly decided that additional restrictions weren't a good idea. Because such a large percentage of us who live on the beach side are absentee owners, we don't have the same strength and voice and bodies as they have on the east side of Gulf Boulevard. But I'm hoping that you won't pay less attention to our voices just because there's fewer of us. I urge you to listen to the two previous speakers and to do the same thing you did on the east side of Gulf Boulevard and reject this ordinance. You also know how I feel about your desire, or I don't even know if it's on purpose, to play favorites against our second homeowners here. I mean, I can tell you from being in the real estate business, that's one of the reasons why people come to Indian Rocks Beach to buy a second home, because they're not treated like second-class citizens. But if you're going to give a renter an overnight beer, you're going to give a renter a sticker, but you're not going to give somebody who has a vested financial interest in this community a parking permit. I'm sorry, no matter where the problem is, and I've never seen it anywhere on my access, I don't understand why you would do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time? Please come forward. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. I want to speak in favor of this because I think you folks have given it enough time and effort.
Ma'am, please state your name and
Oh,
address.
I'm
for the
sorry.
record. I'm sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
no, I appreciate that. Rebecca Saber, 368 La Hacienda Drive. Anyway, I appreciate all the time and effort that's gone into trying to do something about the parking situation. Is there any one fit for everyone? No. There is some things that, we have to start with and try, because the parking has gotten out of hand. And I do think that the people who are living here and do have a home here and have registered vehicles here should have a little bit of more say in the parking abilities. I know, yes, we live in La Hacienda, we have the ability to park on the street, yes, we do. But that doesn't help us if we want to go to the beach. We don't have the luxury of living close or on the beach, so therefore, we drive our car, and most of the time, when it is the season especially, there are no places to park, whether there are residence places or places open to the general public. So I do think that with only 63 parking spaces at the beaches for the residents, I do think there has to be some consideration given. There's a lot of people down here, and I think that that would at least help. It may not be perfect, but we could at least try and see if it will get better. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there anyone else in the public who'd like to speak at this time? Please come forward. If not, then we'll close the public hearing. Would Randy or Dan like to address any of the questions that were asked?
Reviewing the questions raised during comments, no ordinance, first addressing the point of administrative concerns, ordinances don't typically set forth the entire administrative process for following through on a rule or regulation. Much like with the short-term rental ordinance as an example, we say there's an application, it's going to have its contents, it will be implemented thereafter. Same is here. So as far as how to accommodate last-minute decisions, I would say that the ordinance does not specifically contemplate and set that out. There was much discussion about that at the last meeting, and I would defer to those exchanges. Again, it's not typical for me to be in the role of answering the administrative issue, so I just want to say that. There was a point raised that to punish abusers as opposed to a subset of the homeowners, and to that point I would state that it's as framed in the ordinance. You can't punish somebody if it's not against the rules. And so putting forth some rule with some boundaries is the aim here to address an issue that has been raised to management in the past and concern on some taking, let's say, more than their fair share of use of this resource in the community for their convenience, as opposed to the convenience of the community at large in those public parking areas. With that, that's all I would add, Madam Mayor.
Dan, do you have any opinion?
No, I do not.
Ed, do you have any comments?
It's always very difficult to park on the beach, and for the people who live on the west side of Gulf Boulevard, it may be necessary at times to cross over to the east side of Gulf Boulevard to park there. I think that's still available, and that does not require a temporary pass, and so I don't believe it's as catastrophic as was presented. I think this is a good ordinance, and I support it.
Do any of the commissioners, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this time?
No, I think we've given it a lot of thought, and this just didn't happen overnight. We've been giving out parking decals for years to homeowners who were supposed to show, a Florida driver's license and a registered car. The problem is it's gotten more and more, and if we don't have some rules in place, how can we help people that call and have problems and want us to enforce it? You can't without something on paper that's going to explain it. I know the hang tag issue is going to be temporary, so everyone is on an even keel. If we need weekend passes, that's another story. That might have to be something we take a look at later on if someone is in need. But also, I'm on the west side of Gulf Boulevard. If I have overflow parking, I'm going to have to try and have those people park on the east side of Gulf Boulevard somewhere, because that's my only outlet, when we have extra guests. I know it's not perfect for everyone, but, our homeowners, say we have 1,500 homeowners that have registered cars, and we give 2 decals, that's 3,000 for 63 parking spots. You know what that average is, the chance of any of those 1,500 decal people getting a space? It's very slim. So if which would be ideal if we could open it up to second-time homeowners and rental properties, but then it would be useless, the decal program. And I think it was designed a long time ago to help the residents of Indian Rocks Beach. So as imperfect as it might be, I think it handles some of the issues that we've been dealing with in the past. So I would be in favor of the ordinance.
I just want to make sure that the residents are clear on this, because I've been asked this several times, so I just want to make sure that it's clear. So, say that Nancy has 2 decal passes. She is a resident, lives here full-time, and she is on the beach. If she wanted to take her decal is on her car, so if she had someone staying over and they parked in her parking space and she, with her decal, parked on the access, her car, what would happen?
She needs a hang pass.
That doesn't work. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just so that we're all clear on that doesn't work. Okay, just wanted to say that. Okay, with that, is there a motion on this ordinance?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance
2020-08, final and second reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second, please.
Motion second by Commissioner Hofnagel. Is there any comments that you'd like to make as the maker of the motion? Diane?
No.
Commissioner Hofnagel, do you have any comments?
I have no additional comments.
Deanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner McFall,
McCall?
McCall,
No.
Vice Mayor Hannah,
Yes.
Commissioner Hufnagel,
Yes.
Commissioner Flag,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. On to 7A, ordinance and other legislative matters, ordinance number 2021-01, first reading. And I'm going to hand this over to Randy.
I'll read the ordinance because this is a budget, I'll read the ordinance because this is a budget ordinance, Madam Mayor, I'm going to read it in full. City of Indian Rocks Beach, ordinance number 2021-01, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Pinellas County, Florida, amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, appropriating additional funds for employee wages, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Whereas on September 17, 2020, the City Commission approved ordinance number 2020-03, adopting a budget and appropriated funds therefrom for operating expenses for the City of Indian Rocks Beach for fiscal year 2020-2021. Whereas the total approved budget for fiscal year 2020/2021 was $5,812,540, of which $3,711,010 was allocated to the city's general fund and $1,354,530 to the solid waste fund. Whereas the adopted budget did not include pay increases for city employees, the City Commission determined to revisit the topic after the first fiscal year quarter so as to determine the budgetary impacts of the current national economy and pandemic. Whereas the city manager has advised the commission that state revenues received by the city are performing ahead of projections, which had informed the original budget recommendation, and city expenses related to the county permitting have dropped substantially. Whereas based on this new financial data, the city manager has recommended a budget amendment so as to account for these unanticipated funds, and further that these funds be used to allow for a 3% pay increase for all non-contract employees. Whereas section 10.4 of the city's charter concerning budgeting provides that the city commission will adopt budgets pursuant to chapter 166 of the Florida statutes, whereas Florida statute 166.241, which governs the adoption and amendment of municipal budgets, permits the commission to amend the city's budget at any time in the course of a fiscal year in the same manner as it adopted the original budget. Whereas the city commission finds that there will be sufficient funds for the remainder of the current fiscal year to allow the city manager's recommendation of a 3% pay increase to be implemented. Now therefore be it ordained by the city commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Pinellas County, Florida, that section 1, the City of Indian Rocks Beach's fiscal year 2020/2021 budget, as adopted by ordinance 2020-03, is hereby amended to include an additional $23,000 with $15,280 allocated to the general fund and $7,720 allocated to the solid waste fund. Section 2 from the City of Indian Rocks Beach's fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, as adopted by ordinance 2020-03 and thereafter amended by this ordinance, an additional $23,000 is hereby appropriated to the employee wages as reflected in detail on the chart appended as an exhibit, hereby incorporated in this ordinance. Section 3, the provision of this ordinance are severable. Section 4, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon final adoption by the City Commission. This has been a first reading of ordinance number 2020-01 by in full, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to introduce anyone who doesn't know our very famous finance director, Dan Carpenter, who has just done a wonderful job for us throughout the years he's been here. How long have you been with us now, Dan?
I've been here 8 years, Mayor, now.
Wow. Would you like to present this item?
I will, thank you. Awful lot of stuff in that ordinance. Feels like we're in the summertime and we're working on the budget
I
again.
know, it's kind of weird.
Well, that's kind of by design. You guys did approve and appropriate a budget for all funds back in September in 2 readings. Whether it's $1 or $1 million, you have to go through the same process to a smaller degree to appropriate more money. The highlight, this is only pertains to general employees. It's a proposed 3% increase. I want to make sure we state for the record that this would not become effective until it was approved. If it was approved on second reading, meaning February forward, there is no retroactivity back to when the budget was approved beginning in October. Salaries, obviously, for your general employees impact two funds, the general fund and the solid waste fund, where they're both paid out of. And, you know, the details of the agenda memo highlighted where that $23,000 is split. And I think, you know, real quickly, the ordinance itself hit on the fact that the picture's a little bit brighter now than it was maybe April, May, June, when the manager developed, proposed, and you guys workshopped and adopted a budget. For good or for bad, the state of Florida's stayed open, perhaps more so than other places. The economy's not gone as far down as projected at that time. So the revenues are there through the first quarter, actual numbers, and are projected to be there for the rest of the year to support this financially. And I think that's it. You know, I'd be glad to answer any specific questions that weren't included, that need clarification.
We'll start with Ed. Ed, do you have any questions for Mr. Carpenter?
No, I don't. Thank you very much, Dan.
You're welcome.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions at this time?
I do not.
Not a question, but
Mayor, I have one thing. I'd like to, I'm not sure how to do this, but I'd like to make a motion and amend this ordinance on the first reading for the second reading. I'd like to consider the increase that we've done for the employees to also include the city clerk and the city manager, because that they were not included in this 3%. So if you want to take a vote
How
on
would
that.
we do that, Dan?
Well, I'll jump in there.
Thank you.
Okay,
Because
Randy.
we're talking about an ordinance, unless you want to, Dan.
No, go for it.
It would be a motion to amend the ordinance to include the contract employees, namely the city manager and clerk. If you're going to make a motion of that nature, because we are dealing with the budget, it needs to be specific, meaning not a raise, but in what quantum, as to whom, as to both, just so it's very, very clear. And when we're dealing with fiscal matters, we don't want anything left to guesswork. So if there is a motion to be made, it would be a motion to amend the ordinance to increase, and then before that motion is made, I would suggest if the finance director has the means to provide what that would mean fiscally on the line item budget and increase, because presently it's noticed as I believe 23,000 in total, what it would be including those two positions, so that can be stated on the record as well, and it can't be said that the budget was amended haphazardly or in a manner that did not disclose that sum to the public.
Dan, would you like to give us those numbers?
Yeah, they're on the spreadsheet I provided you, and I originally had done that, just to make sure I'm
Okay.
accurate. Let me redouble check my numbers here.
Mayor, in the interest of giving the finance director a moment, unless you're already done, I said we could take a recess and comfort break.
No, I've got those numbers.
Right at 9 o'clock.
he didn't take sheet.
Okay,
Well, but assuming it would begin upon approval of second reading in the manner as the general employees were proposed, a la February of 2021, and assuming that it's also the same 3% that was proposed in this ordinance, in this agenda memo, the total for both charter employees would be $5,360 additional funds.
So for the sake of clarity, if the motion, it seems to be the motion would likely be in the amount of 3%, but you're saying assuming 3%, assuming for these employees, it would go from the $23,000 figure to 28 and whatever.
$28,360.
Yep.
Of which the whole amount obviously would impact the general fund, as that's where the charter employees are paid out.
okay.
So with that in mind, and with that information, Commissioner Flagg, do you have a motion you'd like to make?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance 2021-01 to include a 3% increase for our city manager and our city clerk in the amount, should I give the amount? 5,000?
Certainly by the percentage.
Okay, the 3% that we talked about, and I won't do it.
And the finance director can speak to the percentage.
Yes. Okay,
So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Hannah seconds the motion. Commissioner Flagg, do you have anything you wish to add to your agenda item, or to your proposed amendment?
No.
Commissioner Hannah, any comments?
No, just the fact that it's been tough for everybody, as we know, and I think staff, including the clerk and our city manager, have all stepped up to handle things in this environment that we're all in, and I think it's an earned increase.
Are there any other members of the commission who wish to comment on this issue, on the proposed amendment specifically?
This is Ed. Yeah, I would just like to clarify that we're going to amend the budget and the appropriation.
Yes, I think that aligns. It's treating them synonymously for the purpose of the ordinance, but yes, from a finance standpoint, yes.
Commissioner McCall, do you have any comments, or you're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, with that, we'll go out to the public hearing. If there's anyone in the public who'd like to speak at this time, please come forward on this agenda item,
Specifically on the amendment at the moment.
on the amendment, or on the revised amendment. Hearing none, we'll come back to the commission. Is there anyone who has any other comments for our finance director, Dan, or for our attorney? Hearing none, Dan, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Hufnagel,
Yes?
Commissioner Nicole,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hannah,
Yes.
Commissioner Flagg,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries.
So the amendment is made unanimously. As you move forward and discuss this ordinance, you are discussing it as amended by Commissioner Flagg's motion.
Yes, we are, and the motion carries. With that, we will move on to work session items that we...
No, Madam Mayor, we're still on the agenda item. So all we approved was amending the ordinance. We still have to vote on the ordinance itself.
Got you. Okay, so now we're looking for a motion on the original ordinance.
Absent any further amendments, yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there a motion on the original ordinance
As amended.
as amended?
I'll make a motion on the original ordinance as amended, 2021-01.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Would the maker like to make a comment?
No.
And our vice mayor?
No?
Would either of the commissioners like to make any comments at this time on this motion?
Not this time.
No.
Okay, I'm going to go out to the public one more time. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this agenda item? Hearing, okay.
Rebecca Sedgwick, 368 La Hacienda Drive. Could I just ask a question? Does this increase the amount of money that you are spending out of the budget? Is it already, the money already there?
Dan, would you like to answer?
It increases, yes, it increases the total amount of the budget from what it was previously approved back on October 1st.
Okay, that's not what she's asking. She's asking, is the money there?
Is the money already there?
Yes.
Or is there funds there?
It
Or does
will,
it have to move around now?
it will come out of unappropriated fund balance to be added on to the top of the budget.
Okay, so, and will the people, the custodians, the maintenance workers and whatnot get less money, or does everybody still get 3%? Is there enough money there for everyone to get the 3%?
Yes, as proposed, there's, the funding is there to provide all general employees, and as amended, the two charter employees, a 3% raise on top of current salary.
Okay, so then why was it just, the amount just given to everyone except the city manager and the city clerk? Well, it sounds like it wasn't money given.
I'll pipe into that. They're contract employees and typically treated differently as a result because they have specific employment terms. Whenever those matters are discussed, it's discussed as, they are discussed separately by virtue of their contract. Similarly, I'm contracted with the city. When they discuss appropriating funds to compensate the city attorney, it's a separate discussion. It's a function of their status.
Only the commission can discuss their specific pay issues.
Okay, yeah, I was just hoping that that wasn't going to take away from
No,
the...
it's on, as amended, it's on top of, doesn't impact the general employees proposed at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
that.
Rebecca. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. Deanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hufnagel,
Yes?
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hannah,
Yes.
Commissioner Fly,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. Now I will go to work session items and discussion, which we have none tonight. We will go on to agenda item other business. Is there any other business to come before this board tonight? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for tonight. In a month.
Peace out. See you tomorrow.